lining up a strategy, which are the 4 steps to what we then do, which is the executional part. So what I'm going to talk about is what happens when Thomas leaves the room and the strategy has been set. What do we do then? So we're talking about the visual language, and I realize it's a little bit light, but hopefully you can all see. So visual language and what that means for your brand and the users. Oh, it's really light. So Sköna is my company. We're a small agency with big talent, and we're in San Francisco. And it's a little bit hard to see, but this is the view from our conference room in Petroa Hill. We were founded in 2003, so this is actually our 10th anniversary. I came over from Sweden in 1998 and started working in advertising agencies here. And I ran into a creative director who I immediately hit it off with, Scott Springer. And we kind of knew right from the very get-go that we wanted to do something together and work together. So we started Sköna. And the name, Sköna, or as we would say in Swedish, Sköna. Nobody can ever pronounce it, so we stick with Sköna. It means glorious, beautiful, comfortable, sort of all the things that we feel about advertising, marketing, branding, and design when done right. So we wanted a name that reflects that sentiment and also has a bit of an international twang to it. We're award-winning, of course we are, have to brag a little bit. But I think for the purpose of our conversation here today, what that means is anybody in today's society can have a good idea, but it takes somebody with experience to execute it well. So with experience, the experience we have, we can take those ideas that sometimes are easy to come by and execute them in a polished and finished way. I think an example would be somebody, anybody feels like they have a movie in them, but it takes somebody like Steven Spielberg to execute an actual blockbuster. So I think that's sort of what the awards mean to us. It's the fact that we have earned the right to produce our work in a really highly professional manner. Some of our experience tends to be regional, based in San Francisco mainly, but we have a client in Dubai, spent some time out there recently. We have clients in Chicago and all across the country. But I think the main thing to notice about clients for me is that we try really hard not to stay niched. It's hard when you're in this area because almost every company you run into is a high-tech company. But I think some of the best experience we get as an agency and as a partner to our clients is being able to take what we learn in, say, the restaurant business and apply it to a high-tech lead gen campaign. Or some of the stuff that we learn in high-tech, applying it to a manufacturer of loudspeakers. It's that cross-pollination that comes from working in different vertical industries that provide a really interesting non-cookie cutter solution time and time again that we strive for. So that's sort of what we do. And our main job at the end of the day is take that brand strategy and make our clients stand out, kind of like Thomas was referring to, although you can't really see it there. And we do this through design, and we believe that design matters. And so here's some samples for you. They're sort of split into 3 categories. Over here is a company called Versto. In the middle are gracious hosts of the evening, Silicon Vikings. And then over there we have Cozy Mouse. So to us, we live, breathe, and die design on a daily basis. And I wanted to just show you what we mean with that. So looking at Versto, here's 6 different executions of a logo. They're a client of ours. They asked us to redesign their logo. Here's where this is actually beyond where we started, and I'm going to show you at the end of my presentation where we ended up, so you'll get an idea for what they actually ended up going with. But this brand here almost feels like a bank. It's sturdy, it's solid, but it doesn't feel very flexible. When you get to this level, you start to feel that maybe they're high-tech after all, maybe they're a little more edgy. And down here, it could almost be a consumer company. We're maybe looking at almost some sort of a consumer insurance or something like that. So just to give you an idea of how important design really is to portraying the right feeling for your brand. And I think that's the same. We took some liberty with our friends here at Silicon Vikings. So up here, we have something that could maybe even be a pop festival. It's hard to tell, but it definitely feels edgy. It feels a little bit out here. In the middle, we have the very safe. This could probably be a yacht club, actually. It definitely doesn't feel like the company that they are. And down here are 2 variations that are a little bit closer to their actual look and feel and who they are. Cozy Mouse is a Mexican restaurant, and the top designs feel like something that you could probably find in your neighborhood. The middle ones are something that starts to feel a little more upscale, and the bottom ones are probably almost out of reach and not as approachable. So it's just trying to set that tone of what design can mean. So to us, the brand and what the brand stands for is like buying an insurance policy. And what I mean with that is if you have a brand that's built out well strategically and then designed well, your users and your consumers will allow you to make a few missteps here and there. And as we've already talked about Apple, I'm going to refer back to them. Back in the late 90s or maybe early 2000s, I spent a lot of money on something called the Newton, I think. And I used it probably 2 or 3 times. It was the most useless product I've ever seen. But you know what? The next product that Apple launched, I bought it again because I love them. I'm a loyal and passionate user, and they have a brand strong enough to support a few missteps. I think the other thing that's important to think about when it comes to branding and having a strong brand is that it gives you cushion to not have to compete on price alone. If you got nothing else, no brand, what you're left with is price or maybe a couple of features and benefits. If you got a strong brand, you can talk about other things, and you don't have to be the cheapest product out there. In our mind, design also drives the perceived value. Back to that same insurance policy. On the top, you have one guy dressed differently, same guy here dressed differently. And to us, I think a well-designed brand is just that. It's the suit you put on your product. It's the clothes you dress your service in. And it's your opportunity to tell the world what you stand for as a company. So make sure you think about it carefully and pick the right suit for what you want to pursue. Lastly, I think design drives emotional attachment. Because I think lots of people will say, well, brand isn't as important to me. I'm in the B2B world. You know, that only applies to consumer companies, but that's not true. Adobe is a strong B2B brand and will buy whatever they put out. IBM, as Thomas brought up earlier, is a great brand that drives lots of strong B2B followers. Sure, it's actually a business-to-business product, even though they ventured into the consumer market lately. But they rely heavily on brand, even in the business-to-business area. And last but not least is VMware. I can't think of a stronger badge brand when it comes to business-to-business products. You walk around town and you see people with stickers that say, I heart VMware all over the place. And those are not necessarily their employees, that's the users, the buyers of virtualization software. So, everyone has a price, and it could even be everybody has a goal. I assume in this room we have people who are maybe looking for venture capital, maybe another goal if you have a consumer product could be to increase market share, or maybe the goal is to have an exit strategy, to sell, find a buyer for your company. And what we've seen in the last 3 years has supported that, where 5 of our clients have actually been bought. So Versto was recently acquired by VMware. Clairmail, recently acquired by Monetize. Rockfish, which is that fish restaurant in the middle, acquired by a restaurant conglomerate. Isilon was bought by EMC, and last but not least, SuccessFactors was purchased by SAP for $3.2 billion about November 2 years ago. So I think that this is really important because the brand that you're developing will help you determine what that price tag is going to be. So to talk you through a little bit, I'm going to show you what we did for Versto. So here's where we started with Versto. This is when they came to us about 18 to 20 months ago. They have basically a storage solution, to keep it simple. A virtualization of storage. And they came to us and this was their brand. And they didn't really want to change it, but they needed a new website. But we went through a branding exercise with them, and we ended up convincing them that we needed to change their brand to better reflect the strength of their product and what they stood for. So this is the logo that they actually ended up with, none of the ones that you saw earlier. And this is after a lot of back and forth with their management team, with sitting with all of them, listening to them, understanding their customers and what they were trying to do. So I think this logo was a clean, modern version. It still represented strength. It felt high-tech, and it felt like there's a perceived value in this that wasn't previously there. That, along with the redesigned website in the back. You see the desktop, and then you have the responsive design in the front. There's the iPad, and you also have the smartphone solution. This launched, I think it was August of 2012, along with some collateral materials. You see pull-ups, you see trade show booths, there's a Twitter feed background, and then there's a lead gen campaign. So all this stuff launched in August 2012, and by December of 2012, they were purchased by VMware for a price that they were very happy with and an outcome that they were very happy with. So I think that, I'm not saying that the brand was everything that made it happen, but I know for a fact that it helped them in their conversation with VMware and in terms of naming their price and getting what they wanted out of the conversation. So all that said, that's my mom. And you need somebody like us. I'm not saying you need us, but you need somebody like us. You don't need my mom. You don't need your mom. You don't need your brother, your uncle, or anybody like this, unless they're a professional advertising agency or design agency. And the reason is you wouldn't go to those same people, even if they had 2 years of law degrees, to ask them for legal advice. Do the same with your brand. If you believe in it enough, you should enlist a professional with an experience and a track record to make it happen. It's not something you can cut corners on if you want to try and come out with the end result that you're looking for. So you need somebody who's going to be a brand guardian, somebody who feels really strongly about your brand and who's willing to protect it. Here are some of the clients that I work with on a daily basis where I fight for making sure that all the communication that comes out of them is consistent and it says the same value over and over again, whether it's a pen or whatever it is they're producing. I want the message to be the same. And you need to work with people who feel that passionately about your brand, even if they're a consultant. So, how fast was that?
Wow, Jenny.
So, does your brand matter? Of course it does. I'm sure you all put your blood, sweat, love, and tears into it. And if you believe in it that much and you're willing to put that much on the line, you need to work with people who can respect it and who can make your dreams come true and make it work the way you need it to do. So that's why brand and visual design matters, in my opinion.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jenny. That's great. And then I don't know how many entrepreneurs I've seen ask their, like friends and siblings to do their logos
Moms.
and all that. And that's just, yeah, it's terrifying. So we're gonna continue with the legal stuff. We all need that. So and we're not gonna do a break. I'm sorry, but we might get the shades up. Is that okay? You don't need them, right? I think you
it should be fine.
Yeah. So maybe we should, so people don't fall asleep or anything. That'd be great. All right, and put down all your questions so you can ask them to the panelists after. Britt,
Okay.
show is yours.
So